Okay, Maria, you're up.
Right.
So thank you, Angela. So yes, my name's Emma Simmonds. I'm the Head of Admissions and Funding at Treloar School and College. Yep, thanks. So my job involves supporting families and young people to get to Treloar's or other provisions if that's what they're looking for. And a lot of what I do is supporting through a tribunal process, appeals. So work closely with local authorities, but mostly with families. And then my colleague.
So my name's Maria Sherwood, so I manage the progress and transition team. So once young people start at Treloar's, my role involves working with young people to ensure they're making progress towards their EHCP outcomes and ensuring at college everything that young people do is a transferable skill that will support them after college.
Yep, and then we also have...
I am the student. My name is Thomas. Yeah, I like it there. It's really fun.
That's handy. That's good. And you officially joined us in September, didn't you? So you're still reasonably new.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So what we wanted to do is we can explain a little bit about Treloar's, but it's sorry. That's all right. We can a mic drop, literally. We can explain a little bit about Treloar's, but this isn't just about Treloar's. It's really about thinking what provision is needed and what young people need in order to get them to their next placement to make that successful. But just to give you an understanding, Treloar's is a school and college. We support young people with physical disabilities. From the ages of 4 to 25. We have a lot of young people with Duchenne muscular dystrophy, but we also have other young people with cerebral palsy and other disabilities too. We are day and residential, and it's really a multidisciplinary environment. So we find that our students, in order to be able to access education, really need to have the all-round therapy support to enable that as best as possible. And we thought what we would do, we've obviously brought Thomas with us today, but we wanted to show you a video of a young person that joined us actually last year, and just his views on Treloar's.
I'm Josh. I'm a student who started here at Treloar's in September of this year. I was very nervous to start because it was my first time being away from home and being in a new environment through the week. But the transition was really smooth and it went really well, especially because since I've been here, I've been on Brewer House and I've been getting a lot of that social interaction, which I wouldn't have otherwise had if I had been going home every day. And also it's been really nice to meet other students with the same disability as me, as it's my first time doing that. I found it really quite nice for me to know that I'm not really alone. I was supported really well when starting. Everyone was so lovely and very kind. By far the best thing that Treloar's do for me is they preserve my independence as much as possible. So although I feel like I'm really cared for and I'm getting the help I need, I still feel like I'm being my own person and doing lots of all the tasks that I possibly can. And that's by far the best thing about being at Treloar's, is that guidance and help, but as well as keeping you, giving you that feeling of independence still. I think that's why Treloar's coming here has been one of the best decisions I've ever made. So there you go.
So Josh had always attended a mainstream school, and which had worked brilliantly for him, but he was ready to move on to do A-levels, and the local colleges just weren't able to meet all of his needs, and his needs were changing. So one of the things when I first met Josh that he said to me was that he would really like to have friends and just people that he could relate to, and I think he's just done so well. He's now thinking of moving on to university, and it's just been a real privilege to see his journey through Treloar's. Okay, so some of the important things when looking and choosing a college is, I mean, it sounds quite simple really, but somewhere that is accessible, that I think looking at, you know, where are classrooms going to be, what does that mean, and how am I going to manage that? Where independence is at the absolute heart of everything, and independence means different things for different people. Where you can have friends that you can relate to, where all of your therapeutic needs can be met. I think the biggest thing for us is about learning and supporting young people to learn the skills that they need after college, whether that's into higher education, whether that's living independently or as independently as possible. So it's supporting those skills. When you're obviously going through that transition, whatever is in your education healthcare plan is so important, because that really dictates the placement and what you're entitled to. And one of the really lovely pieces of legislation that I really love is that anyone with an education healthcare plan is entitled to education over 5 days a week. And that's a really important piece of information, because lots of mainstream colleges do only offer two-day placements or 3-day placements. But quoting that is quite nice to a local authority, because they suddenly realise that you do know what you're talking about, and that they are responsible for finding a placement for 5 days. Okay, so some of the questions that some of our school students perhaps may not always go on to our college, so we support them to look for other colleges as well, and we always support them with a list of questions that they should be asking and families should be asking. So really, where will my lessons be? What will that look like? Will I have to be isolated from everybody else? Is everybody else going to be somewhere and I have to be taught elsewhere? And how long is it going to take me to navigate between lessons? I think the bathroom facilities, I think, is obviously very, very key, but also what happens in an emergency and how do I get out, and how is that managed and how is that supported? And sometimes provisions haven't always thought of that. So actually, when you start asking some of those questions, they suddenly start to think whether actually are we the best place, or what else do we need to put in place to support somebody here? And will I need someone to open the doors? Because what we don't want is to over-provide provision and support for young people when they don't need it. Have I missed anything, Thomas?
Maybe because when I was at school, I didn't really like having a teacher near me,
Okay.
but be comfortable to ask for help
Yeah.
when you actually are struggling with your work. Ask for help. Like, sometimes I struggle to open drinks, so I have to ask help to open the drink for me and things like that.
Yeah. And one of the things that Josh said to me actually was that what he found really difficult was he felt like he was bossing people around when he had to ask staff to help him. And I had never really thought of that before. But he said it's taken him a really long time to be able to ask for help and not feel like he's telling grown-ups what to do, which I thought was quite interesting. Okay, thank you. So independence, what does that mean? It means, like we all think, it means different things for different people, but it is around directing staff, but most importantly, being able to make your own choices and decisions, and being supported to be able to do that. Being able to really self-advocate for yourself, and that's a lot of what we would like to try and do to support young people with those self-advocacy skills. And a bit like you've just said, Thomas, really having control over your environment and being able to dictate when things need to happen for you. So friends that you can relate to, this comes up quite a lot. So what was important to you, Thomas, when you were thinking about that, when you were moving from a different environment?
Because I've started primary school and secondary school, and I had loads of friends.
And was that mainstream?
Yeah, that was mainstream school. But when I moved from primary to secondary, not many people went to the same school. I only had one other person who went to the same school, so I really had to remake friends, which is quite difficult for me.
Yeah. And what about sort of like, I don't know, breaks and lunch times? Did that become trickier?
Yeah, breaks and lunch times got a bit trickier, because at lunchtime I have to have a teacher take my plate, cut up my food in front of people who are able-bodied. But when I moved to Treloar's, it's a bit better because everyone is in the same boat.
Yeah.
Everyone's in the same boat, so you don't get a bit embarrassed because everyone's in the same boat.
Yeah.
And lunchtime, it was break time. Sorry, it's all right as well. It's all right when you hang out with your friends. They might go and play, I don't know, football, but you're on the sidelines and you have to watch, and it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
But in Treloar's, we play other sports like bocce. I never played bocce before, and I played it, and I actually like playing it.
And are you any good?
No, I'm terrible.
Practice makes perfect. That's
Yeah.
good. That's good. All right. Thank you. So in terms of therapeutic needs, it's really about that integrated support. And I think what you have just said, Thomas, it's about not being singled out, not feeling different, and about it being kind of included as part of your day and as part of your programme. And certainly for our students, it's really important that they do have access to a really proactive and a reactive physiotherapy service. And that doesn't just have to be delivered at somewhere like Treloar's. That really can, depending on how education healthcare plans are written, the support is not always great, but it can be improved. Access to assistive technology so that lessons, everything is more accessible, and making sure that you're able to do as much as you can. So I think that's something that we'd like to focus on. And the other challenge, I think, is that, and not for everybody, but for some, is that particularly if you've come from a reasonably isolated experience in some respects, it's about really learning how to make friends and what are those boundaries and how do you do that, because that is a skill in itself. So we have speech and language therapists, but that's not just to support young people with their speech. That is really about some of those other boundaries that everybody needs to learn. So Maria leads a little bit more on this Art Independence programme, particularly at Treloar's. But again, these are all pointers that can be used with other provisions as well. But the things that we want students to do is being able to, they will be employing some of their PAs when they leave us. And how do you write a job description, and what sort of person do you actually want to have working for you? So we go through a lot of those skills. We go through interviewing skills, and certainly that if you're looking for personal assistance, how do you manage a budget? How do you even pay a bill? What does that even look like? And how do you manage a bank account? And those sorts of life skills that are so important.
And I think that's, as Emma said earlier, the importance of having the curriculum over 5 days allows you the opportunity to focus on the academic side of things, achieve the qualification, but also have the time to learn these important life skills that really will support after education.
Yeah, and there's absolutely no way that we would, or some of our students would be able to squeeze in 3 A-levels in a week and all their therapy and all of these skills. It just wouldn't be possible in that time frame. Learning how to book care, when do you need support, directing staff, a bit as we've already discussed. And also then thinking about what happens after college and what do you want to do and how are you going to spend your time, whether that's in employment or volunteering or maybe higher education. So that's part of our transition curriculum. Really person-centred planning, that's got to be at the heart of everything that we do and you do and schools do. That's got to be the absolute key. And listening to other people with different experiences and coming to somewhere like here today is fantastic, I think, in terms of getting some of those, things that have worked well, things that haven't, and really sharing some of those other experiences. We do have another video to show you, but before we move on to that, we're here today, we're exhibiting, so if you want to find out anything more about us or what we do, that's great. But Maria and I both support a huge amount with education healthcare plans. We know the legislation through that, and we support families on that journey, that funding journey, which can often be a struggle. So I don't know if anyone's got any questions in particular about anything that we've just discussed or anything in terms of an education healthcare plan or anything at all? No? Yeah?
So it's Treloar's, it's residential during the week, and most people stay during the week and then go home at the weekend.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mixture. So we have some young people that stay with us for the term, so that they go home on school holidays. And we have others that are weekly. We have others that stay every other weekend. Or one weekend a month. It's a real mixture. So it's not a kind of one for all. You know, and we do support young people from around the country. So I think at the moment the furthest we've got somebody from is the Wirral. So, and we're based in Hampshire. So it's a bit of a journey.
Yeah, I just all Googled it. I think it's about 3 hours from where we live.
Yeah.
To Treloar's. I've got certainly met. He's got a younger brother who's not here today.
Okay.
So just thinking back in.
Yeah.
So we start offering residential placements from around age 11. But yeah, as Emma said, there's a lot that maybe 1 night a week, 2 nights a week, all depending how far away you live and what suits the young person and their family.
Yeah, so he's 13, but you know, Ben's experience of secondary school has been quite different.
Yeah.
To Sam's, who seems to not enjoy it quite so much. So you know, just thinking.
Yeah. We supported a family. I supported a family a couple of years ago in a very similar situation. So there were two sons with Duchenne, and the eldest had gone through mainstream, gone through college, was actually off to university, and it was just working absolutely perfectly for him. And then the younger son just had some other challenges as well, and it just proved too much, the mainstream environment, because he was almost put into like an SEN unit with other young people with disabilities that weren't like him, and it was quite a difficult time for him. So yeah, we supported through
Yeah,
that.
I think he often finds that his EHCP and his TA support is very often shared with other people who it shouldn't really be shared with.
Yeah.
But because of the way the funding works at school, you know, he's often finding, like say, he's mainly with people that are, you know, suitable, you know, not necessarily be his choice of friends or whatever, and he just finds that quite tricky. So
Yeah.
find out a bit more about it.
Yeah, definitely. And I would say that we are really fortunate, Treloar's. We are an independent specialist school. We are a charity, so we are fortunate in the fact that we have a huge amount more resource than other schools do. So we do recognise that. But yeah, happy to have a chat, even if it's to support with some of the EHCP for your other son. That would be fine. Yeah. Yes.
I was just going to interact because my son went to
Yes.
Treloar's. I think when he first went there, so he was residential, he wanted to come home every weekend. By the end of his time there, he didn't want to see us at all. He had to stay with his friends. So, you know, that's how much he enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely, and it is. And we often find you kind of get that experience, or you have the students that are just straight in, just can't wait to get away, and the families are at home thinking, oh gosh, what's happening? Where's my son? Where's my daughter? You know, because they're the ones that are struggling. And your day at the moment, aren't you, Thomas?
Yes.
And that's all you really want to do at the moment.
Yes, at the moment.
Yeah, which is absolutely fine. And I think it's just about getting used to things, isn't it? And then going from there if you want to increase that. But yeah, the other thing I think with being residential is you really do get that kind of 24-hour curriculum. You know, things don't just finish at 4 o'clock when lessons finish. It's continuing into the residential provision, and whether that is learning how to, I don't know, sort your washing out into your whites and your darks, or you know, or putting it on and making sure you take it out of the washing machine afterwards to dry it. It's all of those sorts of skills that are so vital. Okay, is there any other questions at all? Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I'm let's go around.
That's
come back
okay.
in again. So forgive me if this has already been raised, but my son has quite significant learning disabilities
Yes.
that are associated with his Duchenne.
Yeah.
So one thing that's in our minds is what would you say are some of the key independent skills that would be on your list for young people, particularly young people with additional learning needs?
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point actually, because we have young people that have a range of academic abilities at Treloar's, some working at a really low cognitive ability and others doing GCSE and A levels, and then kind of everything else in between. So it's really in terms of looking at what is the total aim of placement for that young person. What are we trying to achieve after Treloar's? And then really working on some of those particular goals. Some of that could even be being able to work with staff that aren't familiar or people that aren't familiar. I think it really depends on what the next sort of goal is for somebody in terms of where are they going.
Yeah, I think it's having a really personalised curriculum around that young person, what their aim is, and then making sure the support around them's enabling them to achieve those aims. So it may be around kind of simple choice making, but having as much control over their environment and choices and decisions as possible. So all of our young people at Treloar's will have kind of what we call an aim of placement, and that's what their aim is in terms of living for after education and how they'd like to spend their day. And then we ensure kind of all targets and all the staff supporting the young people are aware of that aim and only really setting things that are in line with that aim. So,
So very personalised.
very personal.
It has, yeah, I think it has to be, really. And I'm sure most people that have, got an EHCP, read an EHCP, know that outcomes can often be quite woolly, and they're not particularly specific. And an education healthcare plan is essentially the local authorities document that they're writing about your young person, and I often think that's being done with a budget in mind in terms of how much this might cost. What we put in this will impact on how much this is going to cost. So you do find that outcomes can often be quite woolly, and it's then trying to get some goals and targets that are specifically a bit more targeted, and really working with the school or the college can support that. Really use them as a resource as well. And I think for us it's about absolutely what the young person's aim is, what do they want to do, but actually if you are supporting somebody that has got a learning disability, it's about supporting the family as well, because this is a whole decision in terms of what those next steps are and what the aim of placement has got to be. And it's something that we all have to work on together, family, a young person, and us. We can't do it in isolation. So it's about doing that all together and coming up with some really good collective outcomes that will support.
It's making sure the young person has that specialist support to be as actively involved in making what decisions they can. I think that's really key.
That is really, really vital. And we, often local authorities, well, to be fair, local authorities don't have a huge amount of resource either. So if you are suggesting some fairly good and strong outcomes, the chances are they may well accept them as part of that annual review process. So that's where I would always be recommending a change or outcomes to be added or tweaked or revised to make them more specific. Okay. Anything else at all? No? I think anything else, Thomas, that you wanted to say or add?
When I first started Treloar's, I was nervous. I had to do swimming. I was really nervous because I'm not a really good swimmer. I sink. I did it. I did it even though I was scared. But it was good because at the end the swimming pool was warm. It was like a big bath, and it made me happy because I got some exercise and stretched all my legs and all my joints, and then even though I was tired at the end, it was good. It was good, and I managed to stay afloat. So that's one good thing.
That's definitely a positive.
And yeah, that's basically what I have.
And we didn't really touch on Thomas, but you had a bit of a struggle to get to Treloar's, didn't you? So Thomas was at mainstream and the placement ended in July last year. And then the local authority didn't find you the next placement at all. So you were actually out of education for a year. without any support, and it was pretty tough, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was fun for the first couple of months because I got to play Xbox. But after a while, I kind of missed school
Yeah.
and I got a bit bored. I had to look out the window. I was looking at the birds, and they have more fun than I have. And yeah, it was good. I had to look after my cat. I always talk to him, but he doesn't respond. So it's all right.
Yes.
Sorry, hi Thomas. Can I just ask you a question about having one-to-one support and PAs? Can I just ask, in your experience, do you prefer having, one or two people that work with you often, or do you prefer having a bigger team of people that you can call upon? What's your preference?
Because at my school, they change who takes care of you each day. So if I was getting dressed, like going swimming, you would have two people. If it's just to go to the toilet, because I do it in a bottle, so you wouldn't need two people. You would have one person, depending what you want during the day, sort of thing.
So some of the staff that help you at Treloar's, are they generally the same sort of small group, or is it lots of different people?
It's lots of different people.
And what's your preference? Would you prefer it to be a smaller group of people that you know really well, or does it not matter?
It doesn't really matter, as long as it's if they know you and know what you want, sort of thing.
So certainly at Treloar's, we've got 170 students and about 850 staff, so it's a really big organisation, and it's virtually impossible to keep those really, really small staff teams. But some of our students do need that because that's their preference. So again, it comes a little bit down to a personal preference, but also it's trying to make things as realistic as possible for when somebody leaves us, because I think that's what we don't want to do, is have this absolutely incredible provision that's absolutely amazing, and then you leave and it's tough. And I think one of the things that we have learned over the years is that we have to balance that better. And we have it's a fundraise for post, but it's a former students officer who checks in with students after they've left up to about 10 years. And we use that information to inform our curriculum again. And it's some of those things. I'll give an example. We have one of our residential houses, we have 5, generally is supporting young people that are likely to go to university. That's their aim of placement. So we've tried to replicate, booking care, only having care when you actually need it. And I think what's difficult when you work in an environment like ours is everybody's so caring, so you don't want to see somebody sat there on their own. Come and join in, come and do this activity, even if they haven't booked to do something. And the feedback that we had from a young girl that left and went to university was, I wish you'd left me a bit. And I understand why you didn't, but I've been really lonely since I've left. So I think it's just about really always trying to balance what are those next steps and what does that look like, and not trying to fill holes that can't be filled in the future.
Thank you.
Just a quick question about what do you need on the EHCP which would allow somebody to come to Treloar's?
Yeah, so it's really about, I always think, reading the EHCP, and I can read an EHCP and then I meet the young person and you wouldn't even think it was written about that person. So really having a good read through it to make sure it accurately reflects the young person. And I think it's really, for somewhere like Treloar's, and I'll just talk about Treloar's, but it's relevant for anywhere else. It's about what are the unique selling points that the placement, the provision that you want your child to go to. So if that's Treloar's, what do they have that another school doesn't have? So it could be wording within provision that is access to an on-site physiotherapist that is able to provide proactive and reactive physiotherapy. Because most schools wouldn't have that on site. Yeah.
I think the key thing is getting the needs right. So
Yeah.
getting section B, the needs right, because if the needs aren't there, you won't get provision in section F. So you need a really full description of the young person's needs in order to be able to get, like the example Emma gave around
Yeah.
provision. So a lot of families we work with have independent assessments that may help them to identify some of their needs, or specialists that work with them. So that is the key, really, getting the list of needs so that you can get the specialist provision that
Yeah.
your young person may need.
Yeah, but I can read an education and healthcare plan, and you can read the provision section, as we've just talked about, section F, and I can quite clearly see, I know what school that local authority has got in mind to place that young person by the way that they've written it. So I always think that the provision in some ways describes what that school or placement can offer. That's not right, but tends to be what happens. So I always think it's about really looking at, what exactly as Maria said, what does this young person need? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? And what support do they need? And then what do they need to have in place in section F to meet all of those needs? And what does that need to look like? Yeah. Okay. Anything else at all? And as I said, if you've got any individual questions, we're very happy to catch up afterwards, after this.
I was
Yeah.
just going to say, when my son went to Treloar, I think he hated it the first term.
Yeah.
Just didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
And I think for him also, is being there and having someone else other than his mum and dad
Yeah.
attending to his personal needs.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite difficult for young people to get used to.
Absolutely it is, and young people are used to having things done in particular ways, exactly, as you do in a family home, which may be different to somewhere like Treloar's, and it's a really difficult, I think, learning curve often. Thomas, I know that when you were at school previously, before Treloar's, you would try your hardest to not have to go to the loo all day because you didn't want to, and I think when you came to Treloar's, that was a big deal actually for you, wasn't it? And I think it's fair to say that took a while. So it's.
And I think they tend to not drink.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't drink at all.
Yeah.
My mum would put my bottle on my bag, and it would still be full when I come back home, because I try and avoid it. But it's not good, because I need water. My brain needs water. Your body needs water. And I could have really damaged my body because I didn't drink enough water. So you should drink water. And and I've had to train myself to use the bottle, and I've done a lot of mistakes with the bottle. We ain't going to go into too much detail, so something what a toddler would do. But at the end, it's okay, and you should drink water, and yeah.
Hi Thomas, I would like you to talk to your son Niall about that situation, because Niall's exactly like that. He goes to school and he doesn't drink and he doesn't go to the toilet all day, and I think it's far too long of a day. He just doesn't do it because he can't go to the toilet by himself. He used to be able to do it until about last year, when he can't get himself down to the toilet or himself. He's in second year now, and he actually has 4 different people looking after him. 2 of them's men, which he could really let them help, but Niall just won't do it. So I would like you maybe just have a wee chat to Niall and just explain that to him, if you don't mind later.
Yes, no worries.
How did you overcome that then? How did we?
My mum, she told me off. She said, you need to drink. That water is not full. I'm taking away your Xbox.
Oh, okay.
And then I'll be, no, you're not doing that. So, and she said, you got to.
Do that to Niall, but the packet of crisps and the chocolate bar, about the next day, so needs to
Okay, yes.
I think what this really highlights is that we don't talk about these taboo subjects
Yes.
enough.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, everyone has to go to the toilet,
Yeah.
regardless of what that looks like for you. So, you know, talking about this stuff more openly, I think is really important. So thank you for raising it, and let's keep talking about toilets, shall we?
And I think you're absolutely right, because it's about supporting the school, isn't it? It's about it's even wider than just what we're doing here. It's about supporting the school that your child goes to really understand some of the challenges, and what can everybody collectively do to try and support that.
I find now school again, he's like, he didn't want to go back to school, but we just made him go back, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
because all else was he going to do at 16. He wasn't ready to go to university, he or college, maybe not. But I think the school has been really helpful to us. As regards, I went to Niall review meeting. Niall wasn't on the chair until September, and he started going to full time in school. And that was a big deal to Niall. So I went down and had a meeting. They brought all his classrooms all closer together, kind of next door to one another, and they kept them beside the toilet, which made things easier for Niall. And I found they really were really helpful to us, which made a big difference.
Yeah.
With Niall getting about, if he wants to come out of the chair or stay in it, whatever way, I just found the school was really helpful.
That's really good.
Yeah, it was him.
Yeah.
Sorry, would you say you're at your happiest now as opposed to where you were 2 years ago?
Yeah, I'm more happy
Yeah.
because
Because of college?
it's more, you got something to do.
Yeah.
It's not good staying at home, so being at school, being around people and talking is good.
Yeah.
It's good, and interacting with people.
So do you stay overnight then? Is it 5 days a week, is it?
At the moment, I'm only a day student.
Oh, right.
I go home after.
See, the sport that you said you didn't, you don't really like it, or you're not really good at, because Niall is a football man, he's not so good at football, and he finds that hard. Well, not this year, because it's different, his birthday was different, but he found it hard not being able to take part, because he never did power football or anything like that. But that sport that you do now, you can join in with that. What was that you called it?
It's a butcher. It's you put like a ball. You roll. It's like what's that?
It's a bit like bowls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like bowling sort of thing, but you can use this ramp. It's a bit easier. Put the ball here, and then you push it down the thing, and you try and get close to the white ball in the middle.
So it's just because the school has asked me if I can come up with any ideas, for now to take part in it. They will try to accommodate us, so that's good. But
We're,
well, they always say, come up with some ideas and we'll do them. It's like, can't you come up with some ideas?
yeah.
Please, give me some ideas, I don't know.
We're running a session, I think, on the 22nd.
Yes,
Of-
I think it's November, it might be the 29th. But
We'll
it's part of
clarify
the
dates.
Yes, I Can project, so we're doing accessible sport, so we'll kind of talk through all the sports that we offer at Treloar, but that, will be useful to kind of share.
That you can take elsewhere.
He went to do basketball, but he found it very hard. This part was hard.
Yes.
Plus, he didn't like the fact that people were running and doing the chair, it was happy.
Yeah.
He didn't like it.
No.
The throwing up, they thought it was the hardest part,
Yeah.
he gave it a go. He tried
Yeah.
it, but he didn't really like it, so it is something like that,
I know this completes a relevant for you, Deborah, but we have actually got a really good English cheer team. So if anyone's interested to look at that.
Yeah.
We're doing quite well.
It's very individual and flexible, so some people can prefer things, some people have ramps, some it's like Poland really is,
I think one of the questions that you asked Thomas is he at his happiest now? And seems to be a bit happier. But you can't underestimate the year, 18 months that Thomas and his family have had in terms of being out of education, the local authority not responding at all to any emails, absolutely anything. It's been really tough, hasn't it? So, and it has been a lengthy process and a legal process, and we've supported heavily in terms of trying to go through the appeal, get to the tribunal, and just before we got to the tribunal, days before, the local authority conceded and named Treloar's as the placement. But the time, the effort, the money that has taken to get to that point, and a lot of what Maria and I do, because Treloar's is a charity, it's about trying to support families to get what they need through that system, and that might not be coming to Treloar's. It's about really trying to signpost and help where we can, because local authorities will fight until the end, and what we always worry about is that often the families that particularly come through towards Treloar's have either got the finances to be able to support that process, or are able to navigate the system themselves. And I work in it every day, and it's really confusing, and it's really tough. And it's the families that we miss. We have supported families that the parents can't read or write. So how you can even begin to navigate a system that is as complex as it is in the UK is quite staggering. So although we work for Treloar's and absolutely huge ambassadors and supporters, it is really just about getting young people the provision that they need wherever they want that to be. Yes.
So with Thomas, your particular case, that was between finishing GCSEs and going on to college, was it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's when you weren't, there wasn't any provision.
Yes. Yes.
At all. And legally should have still been in education. So it was a catastrophic error that even with our involvement in it was a real struggle. It was really, really difficult. And I don't know where we would be if we hadn't have, really fought so hard.
Presumably you're not that far from Treloar's if you're going every day.
Yeah, about 30 minutes.
Okay, so really your school, Treloar's, was within the catchment for that.
Yeah, but because we're independent, we're not a catchment. So Thomas lives within Hampshire, we are in Hampshire, but we're a non-maintained.
It doesn't matter
No.
what place you live to Treloar's.
No. And Hampshire, really, most local authorities don't tend to want to fund us if they can help it. So, yeah. Yes.
So, couple of questions.
Sure.
Thomas, I'd really love to understand what you want to do in terms of the future, where you want to go, and I'd also like to understand from a Treloar's perspective what the students tend to do if they go off to try and do university. You mentioned trying to do physio and learn life skills and 3 A levels, which normally you need all the UCAS points to
Yes.
get to university. So with 3 A levels, what do you stand for?
Okay.
in terms of review?
Should we start with you? What would you like to do?
In the future, I'd like to do apprentice or something like that, along the lines of IT or something to do with computers. I haven't really thought about it, but it's something in like maybe graphics design, maybe IT. I'd like to do apprenticeship.
And would you like to work in the future?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'd like to work in the future, and yeah, I'd like to work in the future. Yes.
Okay. And our students do a range of different things. So some go to university, and they don't always go through the A-level route to do that. So it may be through other level 3 qualifications to get the UCAS points. Some absolutely do not want to go to university and want to go into employment. So it's about supporting a curriculum that supports that aim of placement. That's why we're fortunate that we can bespoke a curriculum so much around a young person.
So we have different cohorts. So Thomas is on the employability and vocational cohort because expressed some kind of wish to go on to an apprenticeship or work. So his whole curriculum will be based around kind of that aim. And we do have young people that may start within one cohort and be following one curriculum and then change their mind as they go through, and there is flexibility to kind of move to others. But yeah, so we have skills for independence and life, the employability and vocational curriculum, preparation for adulthood, and then our kind of link to the mainstream college where students will study A levels and go off to university usually.
Yeah, and we do have some young people that are working at cognitive ability where they wouldn't be able to make that sort of choice. So it's working with the family in terms of what are the next steps. Are they moving on to a residential provision? And then everything is really based around that and experiences and supporting those next steps. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
Yes.
Natural laws, how does it work with like hospital appointments? Do they, you know, if you're staying, if you're residential, do the parents come down, they can, you know, they can't go to that hospital appointment?
Yeah.
Is that all?
Generally, but it does depend. We can support with some, but more often than not, it will be the family that would manage that.
We do have a lot of clinics on site, so we do have consultants that visit a number of students on site
And wheelchair services
Yeah.
and things like that. I guess the aim for us is to try and not have young people having to leave the site as much as possible. So we do have a GP clinic and things like that happens on site, which makes things a little bit easier. Yeah.
They got a dentist, I think.
Oh, that's good.
Have you been?
No.
Okay. All right. I think that's it. We have a video, but I'm conscious that we've run over and it is about 8 minutes long, so we may not have the time.
We're going to-
Yeah,
fine.
that's fine. No,
The
not
next
at all.
session's going to be on mental health and wellbeing, that's going to be starting at 12.
Yeah, that's fine. If anyone wants to view it, it's an absolutely amazing video. It's on YouTube. It's about one of our students. His name is Reuben Mosley. So you can Google that and search it, but it's really fabulous.
We can try and share that.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you,
very
Thomas.
much.